Exomologiste to Kyrio te agathos, alleluia.
Otis ton neona to eleos aftu, alleluia.
But anyway, you still haven't told me, are you a Muslim?
I told you, I already gave you an answer to that.
You don't know? Are you sure?
I already gave you an answer to that. Do you want to ask me anything else or conclude this discussion?
Yeah, would you have any claims against what I say? You can make an argument against me if you want.
Sure. I think there are positives to Islam, especially if we look at the golden age of Islam.
That's a myth. The golden age of Islam didn't newly discover anything. There are many books on how the golden age of Islam is a myth, and that Islam was just regurgitating other beliefs brought by the pagans in Greece and Rome. Like algebra was formed before that. There was signs of algebra within Greek pagans before, Arabic philosophers started writing about it. If anything, I would say Islam is counterintuitive to the development of science. So I'll give you two arguments.
You could say the same thing about Christianity
No,
with its heliocentric model of the world.
I'll actually tell you why Christianity benefits science. So, do you know what the Melchizedelites are?
No, sir.
The Melchizedelites were slowly coming out of the 7th century. Books in Arabia were being translated from like Greek to Arabic.
Yeah, that's how we have kept the ancient Greek writing.
Correct, translated from yeah.
So that's another positive.
No, it's not, because I'll get back to it. Because
we would have lost
the way that
writings,
Islam responds to it's great. So books of Aristotle were being translated from Greek to Arabic, and reading the Quran and understanding that the Quran is the eternal, uncreated property of God. And then they were reading books on Aristotle and Plato, and they found that this idea was philosophically insufficient. That if we held to this principle, that we would have two eternal, uncreated gods. I don't believe that's an argument. I think there are some rebuttals to that. However, that was the historical belief of the Melchizedelites, that the Quran was a created attribute of God. So the Melchizedelites, reading philosophy, came to this conclusion. They went against the mainline Sunni belief. Then they were butchered. The Melchizedelites are an extinct group of Muslims which schismed away from the faith. Now, if you look within Jewish prudence within Islam, they banned philosophy. And it's for that same reason. Because they began to start reading the philosophical literature, found that their beliefs were incompatible with most pagan and atheist philosophers, and they began to restrict the reading of the laity of philosophy to ensure that their religion was preserved in orthodoxy. You're even seeing this now. Anecdotally, how many Muslims have apostated from the faith because they hear arguments from Christians that they've never came to experience, because the Muslim community intentionally shields people from criticism. However, the Christian community doesn't have this issue. The Christian community, in fact, has schisms, has churches which try to critique the councils that they disagree with, and they give arguments for that, and they give patristic literature because of that, and we all form our own arguments, and we're emboldened because we have differences that we try to resolve. Even if you look within post-medieval European history, the concept of original sin actually developed the scientific method. The idea that we're deficient by nature then taught scientists that we had to repeat experiments, because without that repeatability, our fallen nature could have driven us to a conclusion that this wasn't true. And even within Christian societies, especially now today, we have a separation of church and state, which meant that Christian scientists could posit a scientific hypothesis which contradicted the Christian faith, but they were enabled to because they had the space to, because Christianity, the religion itself, was separate from the moderandi of science and government. This is why you see discussions about the circumnavigation of the globe within the Vatican. You had someone who posed this idea that was heavily supported by the Vatican Church, even though within Italian, he started critiquing the Pope itself. So I think that Islam is a religion that tries to shield itself from critical debate, shields itself from the discussion on science, philosophy, and in doing that, preserving its orthodoxy. But Christianity, in preserving its orthodoxy, has to fight for its existence, and in doing that, it emboldens and learn and teaches validity. But I'll excuse my time and let you speak.
I don't really know how to respond to that. It was a bit long-winded for me.
You can just respond to one particular thing if you want.
Would you be able to summarize what you just said?
Islam stops the circulation of philosophical literature in order to preserve its orthodoxy. Christianity...
If that's the case, whatever tangent you just went off of, we have Greek writings due to the translations that the Arabs made from them. Otherwise, they would have been lost.
We still have
simple terms.
We still have Greek fragments of these works, but even if I grant you that, Muslims also preserved pagan poetry.
In that case,
does that mean that paganism somehow influenced Islam, or that Islam contributed to the preservation of paganism?
Just saying there's an open discourse. This just shows there is an open discourse.
No, but if you follow
the
that
Islamic world,
if you follow,
which you've just said,
if you follow that conclusion, it means that somehow preserving any text within Arabia, because by the way, not all Arabs are Muslims.
Yeah, of course. I never said that.
So this argument isn't really conducive of a sound conclusion, because all it would prove is that
I never got a sound conclusion from your...
Well, it's because, firstly, the original Greek manuscripts are incredibly older compared to the translated Arabic ones. So that's just the nature of importing other books. And yes, I did give you a sound one. It may have been a bit long-winded, but I can reduce it for you. The Mu'tazilites are a good example of why Islam prevents the study of philosophy, because they understand their position doesn't hold any water, and that Christianity, in its doctrinal development of original sin, it helps foster the idea of the scientific method.
I think it's natural selection. If you oppose a group, you can expect to be killed for going against it. It happens in Christianity also. If you deviate from the mainstream faith, just as Copernicus did, he was met with a lot of backlash.
But the response,
the
response wasn't limiting philosophy to the laity of the religion. If anything, Christians are inspired to study philosophy and nature, because we take from the book of Revelation and the book of nature. We believe that nature informs our religion. We believe that nature points to God. We believe pagan philosophers point to Christ. I mean, Plato himself talks about the crucified Christ. No, they don't, because they ban philosophy, because they believe that it makes people deviate away from the faith, causes too many problems on the heart.
When you say nature informs their view, I believe that they do look at nature as a product of
admittedly
creation
true.
Of God.
Admittedly true, but I'm also talking more about philosophy as well. Like, if you ban philosophy intentionally, I think that's a way of limiting advancements in science and philosophy. I mean, and even then, the Quran is full of scientific inaccuracies. It teaches that the earth was formed before the universe. It teaches that coral can grow out of both salt and fresh water. It has some faulty Aristotelian understandings of embryology.
I think we can look at the same things in the Bible, like in the 7 days of creation.
Yeah, but
there's some things which don't make sense.
But there's allegory.
If you have light, you can't have night and day before light is created.
Well, that's the sun. Light is used not just for the existence of light, but also the sun itself. But I apply a high degree of allegory when it comes to the 7 days, because other books that were circulating around ancient Mesopotamia also contained the same structured stories. So the difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament and the Quran is that these are a collection of books that span years with different authors, which means they're writing in different ways and fashions. However, the Quran has to be interpreted in one literal way in most occasions.
So why is there 4 schools of thought? And then there's also the whole Shia deviation.
Well, that's more to do with the concept of God and also prudence. But I'm saying on most occasions, if the Quran posits a scientific fact, You can't say it's analogous.
Because when we look at the Golden Age,
'cause it will say, like-
it was the Iranian
Yeah.
Muslims who actually came up with a lot of advancements,
Yeah, they just got from
like eye surgery.
yeah, they just got from the pagans.
All right, good speaking with you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you, man.